we've all been waiting for. We're now just hours away from learning the first results of the presidential election, what the candidate's strategy may reveal about the path to victory. And more than 100 million Americans have cast their ballots already. We're on the ground in many battleground states. We'll give you live team coverage. And businesses all across the country are preparing and have been for days for potential unrest, when we may or may not know the actual election results. All of these stories and much more coming up. And happy Election Day and welcome to News On. I'm Miranda. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot to get to, so let's get right to it. After months of primaries and campaigning and with the backdrop of a global pandemic, the first results of the 2020 presidential election are now just hours away. The clock is ticking. In Michigan, the finale of the battleground sprint.
So get out there and vote. It's going to be, we're going to win this. We're going to win it. We're winning all over. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea. We see the real numbers, and, it's no longer based on polling. We see what, the early voting's coming. They're supposed to be way ahead, right, in the early voting, then we catch them on Election Day. I don't know, for whatever reason, that's the way it is. We vote on Election Day. So get out
Michigan,
there and
part
vote.
of the Democratic blue wall President Donald Trump breached back in 2016, and a state where he made two stops on Election Day Eve 2020. If you take a look at the polls, you'll see that it appears he'll have a tougher time holding off former Vice President Joe Biden and the trio of Rust Belt states that also includes Wisconsin.
Hello, Wisconsin. We're back. We're back. We're going to win. We're going to win this state. We win this state, you know what? It's over. We win Wisconsin. I've treated Wisconsin very well. 4 days from now, we're going to win this state, and we are going to win 4 more beautiful years in the land. Hello,
And Joe Biden starting his election day with a visit to church and with his son, Beau. Biden and his wife, Jill, made an early morning stop at St. Joseph's on the Brandywine in Wilmington, Delaware, the church he typically visits on Sunday when he's home. He had granddaughters Finnegan and Natalie there with him. After a brief church visit, the four walked to Beau Biden's grave in the church cemetery, hoping to use the influence of star power to secure the votes to not yet cast. Democratic nominee Joe Biden made his final campaign stop in Pittsburgh.
We're a laughingstock around the world right now. The only thing that can tear America apart is America itself. And that's exactly what Donald Trump has been doing from the beginning of this campaign. He knows the only way he can win is divide America, pit us against one another based on race, ethnicity, national origin, religion. That's wrong. It's not who we are.
And according to a survey of election officials, more than 100 million ballots have already been cast. These votes represent nearly, half of all registered voters nationwide. 21 states and Washington, D.C. have seen more than half of their registered voters cast ballots already. The 100 million plus ballots already cast represent about 73% of the ballots cast in the 2016 presidential election. Local election officials hope all the early voting will make for a smoother election day. We can certainly hope so. Something that may sway some opinions this election, the influence of the so-called progressive left. Now, there's a video that is gaining a lot of traction that recently resurfaced. It's a Zoom fundraising video organized by the progressive group Move On. Maybe you've heard of it. In it, you can see Senator Bernie Sanders join 4 liberal congresswomen known as the Squad, discussing the vision that he's pushing for under a Biden presidency. Take a listen.
Biden, unlike Trump, does not conceive of himself as a dictator. That means you have your job in the House. I've got my job with others in the Senate. And we're not giving up on our agenda. For example, one area, Biden wants to expand healthcare, that's good. Wants to lower prescription drug costs, that's great. Wants the double funding for community health centers, very important. But you know and I know that at the end of the day, the only way that we're going to provide quality care to every man, woman, and child in an affordable way is through Medicare for all.
And Senator Sanders did mention other progressive agendas like the Green New Deal, criminal justice reform, and immigration during that Zoom call. Now, we've been talking and we've been covering this for a few days. A lot of businesses, again, have been boarding up. Plywood has been huge demand in cities like D.C., where we happen to have a studio there, and our very own David Zier, who's a contributor for Real America's Voice. He joins us now in our D.C. studios. Good to see you, my friend. So a lot of these cities, not just D.C., but also in L.A. and elsewhere, are prepping for potential unrest, riots, looting, and whatnot. What are you hearing from some of these businesses in D.C.? Can you hear me, David? Okay, so apparently we're having some audio difficulties. We'll try to reestablish that connection, but there you saw David Zier. He's been talking to some of the local business owners in the area that have been told to try and protect their businesses by putting up plywood. So we'll try to reestablish that connection because we have a lot of our correspondents scattered throughout the country taking a look at some of these key battleground states. And that's one of the questions that we asked you. And we're going to have some of your answers. We asked you which states that you thought were going to go blue and which states that you thought were going to go red. And we're going to share some of those. Some interesting answers when it comes to this path of victory. And some people surprised to find out that certain states are now considered key battleground states, like Texas and Georgia, some of the states that we've been talking about recently. There is still time for you to participate in that. So we suggest, because we love to hear from you, after all, your voice is the most important voice that we can hear from during this show. So if you'd like to do that, be sure and visit some of our social media platforms. You can find me at Real Miranda Khan. You can also go to Real America's Voice and go ahead and place your bets. We'd love to hear what you think. We kind of narrowed it down to just a dozen states. Depending on which source you go to, there could be 13 included. Some tend to make it even smaller. We decided to go with a dozen. So let us know which states, again, you think are going to go blue and which states that you think are going to go red. Still to come here, a lot of you have been questioning the validity when it comes to some of these polls. We have someone who actually does this for a living. We're going to get his take coming up after the break. Welcome back to News On. I'm Miranda. As I mentioned right before the break, we have a team all throughout the country to give you the very latest information when it comes to tonight's presidential election and, of course, Senate races. We want to go out to now our partners with Just the News. Reporter Nick Ballasy joins us now in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He is in Langhorne, joining us there live. And Pennsylvania, that is the state, the Keystone State. That's what I keep hearing over and over and over again, Nick, that this state will determine this election. What can you tell us?
Yes, Pennsylvania is a crucial state. It runs all the paths that the candidates could be taking on the Electoral College, the potential paths. They all run through Pennsylvania. I mean, this is where it's at. 20 electoral votes at stake. In this county, in Bucks County, President Trump slightly lost to Hillary, less than 1% in 2016. So this is really crucial. It's a swing county. That's why I'm here talking to voters, finding out what they think about the candidates, what issues are most important to them, because how this county votes could be reflective this time around of who takes the coveted state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and that's what I want to ask you, though. Is there any way either one of these candidates could win the election without winning Pennsylvania, in your opinion?
I think it's more crucial for Trump. He's got to win Pennsylvania, because if we're going by the polls we've seen as of this week, I mean, Trump needs Pennsylvania more than I think Biden does. Because if you look at the paths that Biden could take with the latest poll numbers, he could pick up a few different states and still win the White House without Pennsylvania. But Trump, I mean, he really needs it because, like, for example, he's down in Wisconsin, he's down in Michigan, he's neck and neck with Biden in Florida. Trump's got to get Pennsylvania. I think there's no way he can probably win the Electoral College without it if we go by these polls. But again, there could be this silent vote. There could be this silent vote for Trump that the polls are not picking up. We've talked to voters here on the ground in Bucks County at this polling station in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, who are saying, I voted for Trump, but they won't even get into the details why they did. I asked them what issues were most important. They just say they vote for Trump and they walk away. I mean, these are the people that the pollsters may not have tapped into when they were taking these surveys as of the week of the election.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are speculating that maybe, wherever you want to call it, the secret, the silent vote for Trump may be even larger this time around. Of course, that remains to be seen. But you mentioned some of the issues. You said some of them didn't want to address it. But real quickly, because this is the state that Biden is focusing only on today, primarily. I mean, this is the one place where he's going to go to today. What does that tell you real quickly about the Biden campaign, and what are some of the key issues that voters are willing to tell you that they care about?
Well, at this polling station that I'm at now, the voters who did talk to me, most of them were for President Trump. There were a few for Biden, but most of the ones I talked to were for President Trump. Some didn't want to elaborate on it, but I did get a lot of the voters that we talked to elaborate on exactly why they did support Trump. One was a veteran. He talked about the support the president has for law enforcement was really important to him. I talked to a first-time voter who said she was supportive of President Trump, and she talked a little bit about issues like health care, but then she didn't elaborate further. But then I also talked to a few people who said his handling of the economy before the pandemic was the reason that they supported him, and they don't think the Democratic ticket is going to take the country in the right direction. So we've heard mostly pro-Trump at this polling station. Now, we're going to try to get into Philadelphia and see what we're hearing there. Obviously, it's overwhelmingly Democratic, but it'll be interesting to see what the turnout is in Philadelphia. Because as you know, I mean, it could look good for Trump, but then when Philadelphia reports the totals, it could look bad for Trump. So if the turnout's big in Philadelphia, he may be doing well in places like Bucks County or Northampton. Right outside of Philly, Trump may be doing well, but then when Philadelphia reports the vote totals, it could all change. So this is going to be a big night looking at specifically at Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's probably an understatement. Nick Ballasy with Just the News joining us there live in Pennsylvania. Again, one of the key critical states when it comes to this election. A lot of people actually saying that without it, neither candidate can win. There you heard Nick saying that he believes that the president needs this state in order to win another term. Thank you so much for that live report. Appreciate it. We now want to go out to D.C. We were able to reconnect there with our very own David Zier, who was standing by in our D.C. studios. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of people, because of what's happened in states like Pennsylvania, are concerned about looting and rioting and unrest when it comes to us finding out the results of some of these states. And what are you hearing from people in D.C.? I know we've seen some video people, business owners putting up plywood, but what are you hearing on the street, David?
Well, it's dystopian. It's kind of like a ghost town, something out of the Road Warrior. You know, I grew up my whole life coming to D.C., and it's very sad, and it's similar to what's going on in New York. And, you know, and these events are really only taking place in Democratic strongholds. The streets are kind of empty here. You know, there's a lot of homeless here. I was out early this morning. You know, there's a lot of homeless. You see a lot of reporters getting ready to cover, you know, stuff on the street. But it's really very sad. And these companies have to spend millions of dollars. You know, in New York, Louis Vuitton spent $1 million putting up steel on their buildings. And, you know, it's very sad that we have to live like this.
I have to laugh just a little bit to myself that of all businesses, Louis Vuitton could probably be the one to actually afford doing it, not a small mom and pop shop. But David Zier, again, host of Breaking Point, joining us there live in our Washington, D.C. studios. We're going to have live team coverage throughout the night from our various hosts and our partners with Just the News. Thank you so much for that report. Hopefully we won't see that unrest. Fingers crossed, knocking on wood, that we won't see that in cities like D.C., L.A., and New York. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Miranda.
All right. We now want to go to, are we going to go to Heather Mullins or are we going to go to Carrie Sheffield? I think we should go to Carrie Sheffield. She is, you probably have seen her. She's been on our program a couple times, but with Just the News in the Morning, she has a program that airs on this network. And a lot of us, you know, we've been talking about polls. A lot of you have been questioning, you know, how real they are, how much weight we can put into them, and understandably so, because we also what happened in 2016. Recently, she got the chance to speak with Scott Rasmussen about what he thinks is going to happen during this election day. Take a listen.
Hey there, Miranda. Yes, let's talk about Congress. First, let's turn to the House. Now, people are going to be voting for their House members today. There are 33 competitive House races to track today as Democrats are battling to hold their House majority. Now, the Democrats currently hold 232 seats out of 435, and Republicans would need to pick up 17 seats to take control back of the chamber, which they lost in the 2018 midterms elections. Now, I should add that the Cook Political Report and also 538, which is the polling aggregator, they are both saying that they anticipate the Democrats will actually increase their coverage, their numbers in the House. There are some key races to look for. In Utah, for example, Burgess Owens is a African-American conservative. He is challenging Ben McAdams, who's the former mayor of Salt Lake City. The Republicans think this is a possible pickup. There's a close race in the 26th district of Florida, so keep an eye out for that one as well. Also some battles in California that are going to be close. Let's turn to the Senate also now. In the Senate, there are 12 races that are going to determine party control in January. The Republicans currently have 53 seats and Democrats have 47 seats. Keep an eye out for what happens in Maine. That's where Susan Collins, who voted against ACB, the judge, that Supreme Court nominee that was picked by President Trump was upset and he said, "I'm not going to help you campaign." That actually might help her in this purple state, so we shall see. Also keep an eye out in Michigan. John James, an African-American conservative, is running against the incumbent Gary Peters. We will keep you posted on all of this at justthenews.com.
All right, coming up, live reports coming at you from Arizona, North Carolina, and New Hampshire. Those coming your way right after the break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to News On. As we count down the hours till the polls close, we here at Real America's Voice are covering the election from coast to coast. We have a team scattered throughout the country so we can bring you the very latest accurate information. And joining us now from one of those key battleground states, New Hampshire, is our very own Heather Mullins. Heather, good to see you again. Long time no see.
A little shade over my camera, my phone.
And then also there, as you can hear, who's in desperate need of some shade. Not that he wants us to throw him any shade, is our very own Ben Bergquam. He joins us live in Arizona. Sorry, friend, they caught you off guard a little bit. It is really sunny there. So I want to go to you, Heather, first. So Ben, we can get some shade thrown on you, the good kind, not the bad kind. Heather, what are you hearing from people in the good state of New Hampshire?
Well, I mean, people are definitely lining up. I've already seen tons of lines. We actually had snow this morning, so it was interesting seeing Election Day, people standing out in the snow to cast their vote. I know that the Trump victory campaign here in New Hampshire, they made 2.4 million voter contacts. Now, the reason for this, we heard from Corey Lewandowski saying Trump has not forgot the 2016 election here, where they lost this state by only 2,736 votes. So what they've done is they've actually had 40 staffers here in the tiny state of New Hampshire, right? It's only worth 4 electoral votes, but they had 40 staffers here alone. So you can only imagine what the campaign's doing in these bigger states when they're putting so much effort right here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I have to ask you, because again, you mentioned what happened in 2016. You live in New Hampshire. You're not just covering it. You actually live there. You know people there. You know the area very well. You know which industries are important, what issues are important to people there. What are the top 3 issues that you would say you're hearing over and over again? And if you were to predict, is this state going to go blue or red? Go.
Well, I would say the top issues here are people being able to go back to work. I think there's been a lot of people unhappy with the shutdown here. I think it's a very pro-gun state. I mean, the Second Amendment is very, very big here. I think it is going to go red this year because of a couple of reasons. So when you look at in 2008, John McCain lost to Obama here by 68,000 votes. And in 2012, Mitt Romney lost to him by 40,000. Well, Trump only lost to Hillary by 2,700 votes. And when you look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and how they did in the Democratic primary here back in February, he actually polled 5th place and she polled 14th. So of the record-breaking 300,000 votes that were cast in the Democratic primary, Kamala Harris only got 104. Joe Biden got 24,000. So when you look at the 5th and 14th place ticket, can that be enough to swing it the election? I don't think so. I think we're going to see Trump turn it red this year. Today.
Will we know? Will we know today, though? That's the key, though. That we'll have to.
The GOP does actually have a ton of ground poll watchers out because there is that talk of, is there going to be fraud? Is there going to be cheating? Right. And people are genuinely concerned about that. So the New Hampshire GOP actually has poll watchers that they've sent out all throughout the 10 counties.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Heather, all right, so stand by. I want to go to Ben now real quickly, joining us in Arizona. Did we get some shade for Ben? Again, the good kind? I just want to make you laugh, Ben. I just want to make Ben Bergquam.
It was actually for my return video, and it's actually in the 90s here in Phoenix today. So I know a lot of the country's already heading into winter, but down here in Phoenix, Arizona, we're in Maricopa County. It's in the 90s. So some of our equipment, we got to make sure it's not for me. I actually like the sun on me, but it's actually for some of the equipment.
I understand.
I'm glad I'm here and not in Michigan or New Hampshire. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we just heard Heather say it was snowing there, and it's in the 90s there. So what are you seeing on the ground? What are voters telling you, Ben? You're really good at connecting with them and getting them to basically bear all, if you will, when it comes to the issues that matter the most to them.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about this election, because so much of it has been by mail or early voting. We haven't had too many opportunities to speak. I spoke to a couple people here locally at the main elections office here in Phoenix. They're actually behind me is the drop-off location. We heard from the county register of voters that they've had 56,000 in-person votes this morning. That's not including the drop-offs that are happening behind me. Spoke to a handful of the people that are coming out, and right now in this location it is probably 2-1 Biden, but it's also a very urban area. What I see here in Phoenix and across Arizona, though, there's a reason why President Trump didn't come back here he was here just a few days ago, but isn't campaigning nearly as hard here as he is on some of the East Coast, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan, Florida. And that's because the numbers are much more favorable to him this year. It's actually a dead heat based on the polls as of this morning, 49-49. 4 years ago, he was down 4.5 points here. And so heading into the election, I think they basically expect to win Arizona. The real question here is what's going to happen between Mcsally and Kelly for the Senate race. And that one, right now, Mcsally appears to be losing in the polls by 4.5 points. So that's the one that could swing. We're looking at 9 different Senate seats across the country that could swing the balance of power in the Democrats' favor. So even if President Trump were to win the presidency, we may end up in a situation with a lame duck president, at least for 2 years, where the Democrats control the House and the Senate. That's really the big question here, at least.
Yeah, a lot of people have been predicting that. We had Jessica Rivera join us to talk about some of those key Senate races that you just mentioned there, and kind of predicting on what's going to happen. Maybe that's a good question we should ask our viewers. Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think the Democrats will take over the Senate? That remains to be seen. But asking you, you bring up a good point that, Trump, the president, has not dedicated a lot of time to Arizona. What is your final prediction, do you think, for Arizona? Do you think it's going to go blue or red?
I think President Trump takes Arizona. It's a toss-up to me. I'm actually thinking that Kelly probably wins based on the interviews and the polling that I've seen so far. But it's really up to the voters here in Arizona. You still have time to go out and vote, and it's up to them. But I think President Trump wins Arizona.
When do you think we'll actually know the results of the election? That's the key, right? A lot of people are thinking that it could be days, it could be weeks. What do you think?
Based on what I've seen, and it's only anecdotal, I've had probably a dozen people tell me their own personal issues with the elections process. I had my own in California where I went to vote. They gave me the wrong ballot. I was in the right precinct, but they had the wrong city. So luckily I knew what city I was supposed to be voting for. But I was told that the city that I live in, that was a common thing that was happening. And so I have a friend who sent in his mail-in ballot. He's a police officer, sent it in 2 weeks ago, was told that it was lost in the mail, asked if he should go vote in person. Initially was told no, then was called yesterday and said he probably should. So we're hearing these stories. I think it's going to be a total mess across the country. No, I don't anticipate knowing. I think President Trump may depending on where it is, I think one or the other may claim victory tonight, but I don't think we'll know the results for at least probably a week or two.
Really? So you think it's going to be that too tight to call, in other words? We did hear the president say that he would not claim victory unless there was, in fact, an official count that said that he could basically claim victory. Ben Bergquam, thank you so much joining us live there in Arizona. Again, we're going to be going back and forth to our correspondents all throughout the key battleground states, including Heather Mullins, who again was joining of New Hampshire, another key battleground state. We want to hear your voice. So we took those dozen key battleground states and we asked you which ones that you think are going to turn blue and which ones that you think are going to turn red. We're going to share what some of you had to say. Again, we had this posted all over social media. You can still respond to this question because, well, it's election day. We still don't know. So we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Parlay, CloudHub, you name it, we're there. And go ahead and place your bets. We'd love to hear from you. Also coming up, we're going to get an update on your nationwide forecast. As we heard from Heather, New Hampshire experiencing its first snow on the ground, but that's not stopping people from hitting the polls. Meanwhile, poor Ben there looking for some shade. He says it's for the equipment. I don't know. Could have been for him. 90 degrees. What you can expect in the days ahead. That's still to come here. You're watching News On. Plus, our very own Amanda Head is going to join us live from the battleground state of North Carolina. We'll be right back. Welcome back to News On. We now want to go out to North Carolina, one of those key battleground states where our very own Amanda Head is standing by live. What's the latest on the situation there, Amanda?
Hi, Miranda. Yes, as you can see, we are out front of a polling location. I would say the parking lot is maybe 15 to 20% full. Not a lot of people here. A lot of folks in North Carolina voted by mail or absentee ballot. So people are kind of trickling in. Not what I have heard from other states. I've been on Twitter this morning and hearing reports that in a lot of other states that lines are very slow moving and wrapped around and around and around buildings, and people are standing in line for hours. I've also seen reports that in some states across the country that the polling booths have run out of ink. You've had months and, well, weeks at least, but definitely months to prepare for this. In my opinion, we know that the GOP voters are going to be the ones coming out strong today, so that's interesting to note. But we are here in Morrisville, North Carolina. Now, North Carolina went for President Trump in 2016 by 3.66%. We are in Wake County, This is a blue county. It went for Hillary Clinton, 300,000 votes to Donald Trump's 196,000 votes. Now, you see a lot of signs out front here. We've got some polling people who are out front. My cameraman just heard a woman ask someone if they wanted a Democrat voter guide, and then a couple people who are speaking to people as they exit the poll, so maybe they're asking them who they voted for. But this is a big state.
Yes, it is, and we'll hear more from you a little bit later on in the program, hopefully. Thanks so much, Amanda Head, joining us live in North Carolina. Now for a look at your nationwide forecast, let's send it over to Weather Nation's Patrick Crawford.
Weather Nation meteorologist Patrick Crawford here with a look at some of the top weather headlines we're tracking at Weather Nation. Hurricane Eta bringing major impacts to Central America, Honduras, Nicaragua, getting these impacts in the form of intense rain, strong damaging winds, and then also that potential for some flash flooding to go along with the heavy rain. That could lead to some mudslides with this storm system. And when we look at the latest track, it will continue to hang out into Central America, but now indications are pointing at this energy pushing back into the Western Caribbean. If that happens, maybe Eta can really start to reform and become back to a tropical storm as we get into the weekend and impact the greater Antilles. So really wild storm to say the least, and it is a strong one. We've got catastrophic threats when it comes to the hurricane force winds and the storm surge threat along the coast. That storm surge threat along the coast of Honduras could approach 20 feet or higher, and then we could see some spots there across Central America getting rainfall up to 35 inches. So with rainfall amounts that high, and then also some of the higher elevations and the higher terrain, there's likely going to be some widespread mudslides to go along with this heavy rain forecast. So there's a look at that energy. You can see it moving up towards Belize as we move throughout Thursday, and then eventually by Friday, that energy is going to start to eject back into the Caribbean, where it's going to have that favorable environment for potential tropical development, or at least some re-intensification of this storm. Chelsea, this is just one of the top weather headlines we're tracking. You've got the other one.
Yeah, as we go into the United States, we continue to follow the possibility of some moisture being pushed inland, and we're going to be looking at some of those rain showers to start taking over into the Pacific Northwest. This is just the start of some more widespread moisture that's going to be building in. We've had some of that this morning, scattered showers throughout the day today, more scattered showers throughout the day on Wednesday, but as we get into the end of this week, some changes will start to build into our forecast. Notice though, by Wednesday afternoon, we have this cold front that's going to start to work its way inland. Actually, it'll be a series of cold fronts that start pushing through, eventually going to take that temperature profile and significantly drop it off. So more winter weather is in the weekend forecast, but up until the middle parts of this week and even into Thursday, we're going to see mainly rain. As we get into Thursday afternoon, though, some of that rain may start to transition over to some snow in the higher elevations first before it becomes all snow as you get into, again, the weekend. When we look at the amount of rain that is to come, though, this could lead to some flooding concerns along that I-5 corridor back over into the Olympic Peninsula. And this is where there is that higher chance to see flooding issued by the Weather Prediction Center. So anywhere that's highlighted, these are conditions that are not only favorable for flooding, but there could be some flash flooding events that take place over the next day or two as we see this outlined area through Thursday morning. That is going to be something we'll be following for you here at
now for the moment you've all been waiting for, and that is when we share the most important voice you will ever hear on this program, and that is your voice. That is our goal, is to always give you a platform. You can do that by simply joining our community, which you can find on our website at americasvoice.news. You can also reach out to us on social media, submit your comment or question, and guess what? We may air it on this very program. All right, it's election day, as I'm sure you know by now. We asked you to predict out of the key battleground states, which ones you think will turn red for President Trump or blue for Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. Let's jump right into our first response from Griff Potter on Facebook saying this: Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia will remain red. Texas and Florida will flip only if Biden wins by more than 2%. Less than that, and Trump will take them in a court fight. Thank you, Griff. Next, we have Tim Bibby, who says this: hopefully none, but he will most likely, there we go, win Texas. And he's referring to President Trump. Thank you so much, Tim. And Michael says all except Minnesota and Wisconsin. New Hampshire is solid blue, shouldn't be on this list. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion, Michael. Morgan Lawrence from LinkedIn says this: I'd sooner predict the lottery and most likely have better answers. Hey, I'm with you. Appreciate the honesty, Morgan, and the humor. And finally, we have two video responses. The first is from Maddie Miller, a huge Trump supporter from the state of Ohio. Let's see what she has to say.
So as an Ohioan who has lived in Ohio all my life, I honestly think Trump's going to win Ohio, and I can tell you why. First of all, I have been campaigning in Ohio for several weeks, and I have seen the amount of support that he has gotten. For example, I went to a Trump parade in my hometown, and there were about 1,000 cars there. And we got people on the sidelines cheering us on, which just makes me feel a lot better about Ohio. Also, I went to a flag event where we were waving flags in Ohio. It was a smaller event, but we got a bunch of people supporting us on that. So I think that Trump has a very good chance in Ohio, and I'm going to be very surprised if he doesn't win Ohio.
All right, Maddie, well, we appreciate you sharing your voice. We'd like you to do it while not driving. Just, safety. All right. Now let's go to Jack Loudon, a political strategist from Florida, right here in the Sunshine State. Let's hear what he has to say about all this.
All right. It is election day in America. I am firmly believing that President Trump is going to come away with an election result like we have not seen in a long time. President Trump just said today that he's going to go over 306, which was his electoral count back in 2016. I think he's correct. Polls are going to be closing early in Texas, Florida, and North Carolina, so we'll get an easy, quick projection of who is going to be winning this election, and I do believe that it's going to be President Trump. He's doing great in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. We're going to keep Arizona, and I also believe that we're going to take Nevada and New Hampshire and possibly even Minnesota. It's going to be a complete
Love hearing these young voters get out there and show their support of either candidate. All right, there is still time for you to make your predictions. You can find us at Real Miranda Khan or Real America's Voice and let us know which states you think are going to turn red and which states that you think are going to turn blue. Up next, who knew popsicle sticks could be used like this? You'll just have to see it. back to their beloved community. And California, one mother-daughter deputy duo gives back by passing out boxes filled with food and masks. Look at them. Around 200 boxes of food and 75 masks have been passed out by Deputy Angelic Torres and Deputy Kendra Snowden. This is in conjunction with the Sheriff's PAL program, deputies, explorers, and community partners. Torres grew up in a humble beginnings, if you will, when food was scarce in their household, and now they want to just kind of pay it forward. I like that. Good lesson for all of us right now. All right, you just have to see it to believe it. Take a look at this creation. A Toyota 4Runner will set you back tens of thousands of dollars, but what if you could just make it like this from leftover popsicle sticks? Yeah. That's amazing, though. I mean, I'm sorry. I am blown away right now. One King Crafter in the Philippines shows you how you can own the popular SUV for not more than just, a few icicle lollies, I guess, as long as you don't intend to drive it, though. But that is so impressive. Wow. I think that's definitely going to be an engineer, future engineer right there. All right. So Play-Doh isn't just for kids anymore. Yep, the toy brand is set to launch a new line of their famous dough for us adults. The Play-Doh for grown-ups, as it's called, has more sophisticated packaging, as you might expect, and it comes in appealing grown-up scents. I don't know, I'll let you be the judge on what you consider to be appealing. How about overpriced latte? No, I would like low-price latte, thank you. And spa day. Now, that's not bad. Spa day, that could be nice. Some more original aromas include mom jeans, really? Which smells like freshly washed denim. Yeah, my director David's going, what? Who would want that? If you think that's bad, how about this one? Dad sneakers. Why? It gives off the scent, though, of new shoes. Thank God. Not old shoes. Who would want that? Then there's also Lord of the Lawn, which smells like fresh cut grass. And then Grill King, which will leave you hungry, smelling like smoky barbecue. But don't eat it, even though kids often do. You can find the Play-Doh for grown-ups at Amazon and Walmart. It costs about $12 for a 6-pack of 4-ounce cans. I don't know. I think they need to work on some of those scents. Yeah. All right. Not only is this Tuesday Election Day, I'm sorry, but this is like Christmas for all of us here at this network. November 3rd is also National Sandwich Day. Tell that to any newsroom around the country because we'd all swear it was National Pizza Day. Sandwiches don't have to be basic. Maybe this year it's time to, just go all out. They can be gourmet, artisan breads, meats, spreads, cheeses, or you can keep it classic, like a PB&J. Well, the name sandwich seems to have originated with the British Lord John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, who claims to have invented the concept. The dish has become one of America's most popular meals. So whether your go-to is a traditional grilled cheese or a BLT or perhaps a French dip or a po' boy, the carbs are A-OK to celebrate this versatile Sammy. All right. There you go. I'm always hungry. I don't know why my producer does this to me. It's like it's purposeful. So hard to keep a good diet on this show, isn't it? All right. You can tune in to Real America's Voice all day today for the very latest, most accurate election information. We're going to have Tudor Dixon and Steve Goover coming up next. Our special live coverage with our partners, Just the News, that is going to be beginning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Right before that, you're going to want to tune in and see our very own Gina Loudon, also known as Dr. Gina. She is the president of programming here, and she is going to be giving you live Election Day coverage from our D.C. studios. You're going to want to be sure and stay tuned for that. And I'm going to join you right here in the Sunshine State of Florida. This is a key battleground state. I'm going to give you the very latest information throughout the evening right here, easy for me to say, on Real America's Voice. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.